Okay, so I actually did think of one more thing to kind of show you. And honestly, I think personally this is probably the hardest um, thing to do with the editing programs is colors. Um, so I don't really have anything specific that I'm trying to do um, with this image, but I'll show you a couple of different things that you can do with colors. Um, so one thing, as I had mentioned before, um, the the top color doesn't quite match the bottom color. Um, so yes, colorize. There we go. What you can do is come in here and match the hue. Now, as you can see, you wouldn't want to select the pen and the pencil in this because it's going to change their colors as well. So you would probably use the lasso tool to select only the shirt. Um, but you can use the colorize to basically apply a tint, and you've got three different sliders to mess around with it. Um, hue is the the color that you're applying, um, and saturation is how much of it. And then lightness is how bright or dark. Oops. I'm not really going to take the time to match it perfectly, but something like that is not half bad. Um, Probably should be a little bit darker, and again, shouldn't have the pen and the pencil. But that's one thing that you can do with colors. Um, Another really useful one. So as I mentioned before about the rotation, a lot of times you'll want to have transparency, and that can be accomplished fairly simply, assuming that it's a solid color. So all you do is go to colors and then color to alpha, and one thing to keep in mind about it is when you do color to alpha, it's actually going to turn all all of that color to alpha, um, including the like sections of the image that have um, like white as part of them. So oftentimes what I'll do is something you might have heard of, um, and basically green screen. I said green screen. There we go. And this way you can. It doesn't have to be green. It's just this particular image doesn't have a lot of green, um, and that way, oops, if you click on that, you can get the color code. And then when you come to colors, color to alpha, just enter it here. Which I guess it did have more green than I thought that it did. But basically you want to find a color that isn't in the image or isn't in a lot of the image, maybe blue. And it does have this little preview window. Yeah, that's not bad. Eh. So the other kind of tool that you can use with it is once you've changed it to something that's as different as possible, you can go in and use the select by color. And this is particularly useful in a case like this where you have a actual solid background. Although I'm not sure how that remained green, but whatever. And you want to, if you don't already have an alpha channel, you'll need to go into Layer, Transparency, Add Alpha Channel, and then you can just delete, and it'll delete that whole layer, which, let's go back to, green, so that it, there we go. And you'll want to use the threshold, so you can see every here and there we've got a little bit of green sticking around. So you would want to go to threshold and raise the threshold, and then come in and see if it's selecting it. It's not, so go ahead and increase the threshold again. No. That's a little bit too far. Probably better off with this. Once you get close enough, basically you want to avoid having it select other stuff. So if you go too high, you'll see it starts selecting all that stuff. So you want to avoid going too high. And if there's still 1 or 2 pixels that are just stubborn, you can always just come in and manually. Don't forget to add the transparency channel. You can always come in and manually delete them. So that's useful for making something transparent. You can even use it inside the image. So for instance, if for some reason you needed his eyes to be transparent, is there a gap there? I don't see it. Oh, sorry. There we go, fuzzy select. The fuzzy select is like the color select, except it only does like contiguous area. So now you can transparent his eye. Another interesting tool with colors is Colorify. So let's replace pink. Oh no, it's already pink tinted. Oh, it's because I have the selection. There we go. So Colorify lets you apply. It's not exactly a tint. It actually changes all of the colors to that color. And there's also, yes, color exchange. So let's say that you want his hair to be blue instead of pink. You can go to the color picker tool, get the color of his hair. Oh, that's right. They don't let you use a color code here. To color, let's turn it green. Or yeah, that's right, it does automatically fix it. And play around with thresholds. You have to be careful because like his cheek color is quite close to the hair color, so you'd have to play around with it for a while. But and I guess also his hand color. But that lets you kind of selectively change certain colors to other colors. And then of course there's all the normal color tools. So we can shift the pink. To green this way as well. Contrast will basically make bright stuff brighter, dark stuff darker. Whereas brightness is actually the brightness. So for instance, you could shift the brightness down and then shift the contrast up, and it really makes stuff pop like that. Yeah, I don't really mess around with the levels tool. Posterize lets you reduce the number of colors in an image. Usually it's used for making JPEGs smaller, but if you're trying to color shift stuff, it can be easier to work with if you have fewer colors in the image. And then you have various options for grayscale. Invert can sometimes be useful when you're trying to match colors and stuff. Oh, okay. Actually, I remembered. There's a good... There. Example of all the color stuff. Okay. So when I did this one, basically what I wanted to do was to make Hello Kitty's ribbon red. And that's what I wound up with. And if I remember correctly, the way that I did that was to take the ribbon using the lasso tool, and again, normally I'd be a bit more careful. I'm just kind of trying to do this quick to cut out the ribbon. Oops. Create from clipboard. I'll make a new image with that in it. And I believe that I inverted the colors because, yeah, I wanted the black outline on the red ribbon, and then there we go, saturation. White to alpha. Oh no, I actually don't want to crop that. And then the background outside the ribbon, I believe. Alright, so I need to... This is another time when I use the green a lot. Basically, in order to avoid filling in this part of the ribbon, I've got to come in here and make a little gate. To kind of close that off. And then I should be able to... Yeah. Fill all around it as black. And then you can actually just go and change the background to red and flatten the image. We'll replace the alpha channel, or the transparency, with red color. And then the kind of final step is to come in here and just, oops, it doesn't really matter which color I do it with, but get rid of that green little gate there, and we have a red ribbon for Hello Kitty. Which is not right. Right. Oh, yes. That's what it is. I don't want to change that to black. I want to change that to green. And then we set the background red, flatten it, and then color to alpha the green. Then we can copy and paste, flatten it. And raise that threshold a bit. Raise it a bit. Raise it. Too much. Oh. Oh, right. That's what it is. Cut that. And then, yeah, fill that with black. But it's still, I don't... It's set to fill transparent. Whatever. You can just go over it with pen. Oh, it's because this has alpha channel. You should remove the alpha channel before you cut it. Image. Flatten. Then cut. Nope, still. Is there an alpha channel? I just said remove. No, there's no alpha channel. But yeah, you can just go over it with a pen. And then paste. Voila. Only difference is I actually went out and found a picture of Hello Kitty and pulled the color from that instead of just red. So that's an example of using the colors to accomplish something.